Caffeinated bacon? Baconated grapefruit? Admiral Crunch?
Sometimes it's hard to tell if food these days is actually food. It looks like food. It tastes like food. But is it food? Over the years, there have been more and more instances, even court cases, bringing the foodness of food into question. How many times have you been scrolling and been told by some influencer that some kind of food is bullshit and to avoid ultra-processed foods, only to be told later on by some other influencer that ultra-processed foods are good for you, and if they weren't, they wouldn't be selling them to you at the grocery store? The truth of the matter is that with chronic diseases on the rise, being a little bit curious about our food is completely understandable. Wondering what's in it, how it's treated or processed before being packaged are all justifiable things to look into. And honestly, when you hear about the headlines we'll be talking about today, you might think twice before putting convenience before health. But as with all of my content, I'm just a normal person trying to make sense out of stuff. Anything and everything here is opinion and is never advice of any kind. And we're all human. Sometimes we eat ultra-processed food for nostalgia's sake or because we're on a road trip and there's only so much you can get at a gas station for food. Today we'll be reviewing a few articles that reflect the question of foodness in our current food system. Stick around for the last article to see why it's always a good idea to look at more than one source for a specific issue. First up is an article about how it took a British court to decide if Pringles are potato chips or not. Procter & Gamble, the maker of Pringles, tried to defend a position in a British court that Pringles were not potato chips to avoid a higher tax on their product. That's right, the manufacturer itself was arguing that Pringles are not potato chips. At the time of the court case, most food products were tax exempt, but foods like potato chips or similar products made from the potato or from potato flour were subject to a 17.5% tax. Procter & Gamble argued that Pringles weren't potato chips because they, quote, didn't contain enough potato to have the quality of potato-ness. And, at least in a British court in 2008, they were indeed not legally potato chips because they only contained 42% potato. Wait, hold on a second. If 42% of Pringles is potatoes, what the heck is the other 58%? Let's see here, we got vegetable oil, corn, cottonseed, high oleic soybean, and or sunflower oil. Geez, you'd think they could just pick one. Degerminated yellow corn flour. What the heck does degerminated mean? Cornstarch, rice flour, maltodextrin, mono and diglycerides, salt, and wheat starch. 58% of Pringles are those ingredients. I'm going to have to side with Procter & Gamble on this one because those do not sound like potato chips. And I'm going to take this one step further, though, and ask you, does this even sound like food to you? Like, where on the foodness scale do Pringles fall if a potato is food and broken bottles are not? Leave a comment below because we really have to figure this one out. In the end, a court of appeal found that Pringles were definitely potato chips and Procter & Gamble had to pay $160 million in taxes. In a similar line of thought, but from the consumer end, you might have heard about Starbucks being taken to court for some of its cold, fruit-flavored drinks called Starbucks Refreshers. Drinks like their Mango Dragon Fruit Starbucks Refresher, Strawberry Acai Starbucks Refresher, and Pineapple Passion Fruit Starbucks Refreshers, man, these names are a mouthful, lack the mango, acai, and passion fruit, respectively. The court case claims that Starbucks misled customers into believing their Refreshers drinks were made with ingredients that were not actually in them, which begs the question, what is in these drinks? Since they all pretty much have the same basic ingredients, we'll look at the list for the Mango Dragon Fruit Starbucks Refresher. So, we have ice, Mango Dragon Fruit Refresher's base, which is water, sugars with an S, which includes sugar and white grape juice concentrate, natural flavors, citric acid, natural green coffee flavor, riboside A, and freeze-dried dragon fruit pieces. So at least there's some kind of fruit in there, maybe. Again, on the scale of foodness, I don't know. If I really wanted a mango dragon fruit drink, I'd probably just make one myself. But for the sake of convenience, I guess I can see the appeal in this type of drink. Do you think this qualifies as food? Dragon fruits don't really have much flavor and there are no mangoes in it. So natural flavors, natural green coffee flavor, and rhubaricide A, which is an element of stevia with the least bitterness, are doing most of the work in terms of flavor. And the sugar and the grape juice are as well. So I could see where customers would be confused, but at the same time, like if you order a taco from a taco chain, are you really thinking that the filling in the taco is 100% beef? Because it's definitely not. And considering there's close to no nutritional value in these drinks, I'm thinking the foodness factor is relatively low, but I don't know. What do you think? Moving on to the last and possibly the most shocking story I've seen over the years. Have you heard about the recent lawsuit against Subway claiming that their tuna sandwiches don't actually contain any tuna? Despite claiming that it uses 100% real wild-caught tuna, 19 out of 20 samples of tuna from Subway sandwiches were found to contain no tuna DNA whatsoever. But DNA from other animals was found, like pork and chicken. Now, this could be from cross-contamination from the mayonnaise, which is made from eggs, but dang, this is like what a hot headline. The fact that this is even a question of conversation, let alone a lawsuit, tells us a lot about the current state of food or foodness in the world that we live in today. Personally, I get a little weirded out whenever I see labels that feel the need to use the words real or natural. I'm sure a lot of us prefer all of our foods real and natural, but we realize that there's never a need to add that as a disclaimer on the label of real or natural food. I mean, like, imagine you go to buy something like grass-fed beef, and your options are one that just says grass-fed beef on the label, and then you have another one that says real grass-fed beef on the label. Which one are you choosing? Because I know which one I'm probably going with. But there's more to this story about the tuna. So if we check out another article, a different article, we learned that the DNA testing only included 5 species. So the laboratory only had 5 species of tuna in their database. But there are 15 species of fish that can be labeled as tuna in the food industry. So it's possible that the meat was tuna, but it was just another species that wasn't in the database of this laboratory. But with that being said, it's also possible that it was a different species of fish altogether that also was not in the laboratory's catalog. Further still, tuna that Subway purchases and sends to each restaurant is pre-cooked. Cooking denatures DNA, so it's also possible that the DNA was too badly damaged to be detected as tuna by the laboratory. Some suspect that maybe the canning company that sells the tuna to Subway was trying to cut corners by putting cheaper fish instead of tuna, but workers at Subway say they don't really think this is the case because the tuna is already cheap. But again, the fact that we're even having this conversation says a lot about the state of things. As we reviewed in my previous video about bread only needs a handful of ingredients to be edible and delicious. The other 30-odd ingredients added to ultra-processed bread are there for shelf life and to increase production speed. Some might say they're there for profit, but I'm not saying that. You might be, but I'm definitely not. Convenience is also a huge factor in the ingredients lists that we see on products wherever we look for food these days. The less ingredients a food has, the less convenient it probably is, just by way of the fact that real food spoils. We're at a point in time where lawsuits about what foods contain are increasing. As customers and humans, we need to be aware of what's in our food and how it affects our bodies. Of course, sometimes you gotta just grab that gas station hot dog 2 for $1 special, but do we really need that kind of convenience every day? Speaking of 2 for $1 hot dogs, which I'm sure they're more expensive now, is the cost of food. We often hear that eating healthy or eating clean is too expensive, so ultra-processed foods allow us to feed more people. But how many people do you know that are spending $2 on a soda or $5 on a frozen frap like every day of the week? The problem of foodness is a growing issue, and the appeal to nature fallacy argument is thrown around a lot these days, like the idea that anything natural is better than anything processed. But what do you think? Do you think Pringles are potato chips? If a product has apple in its name, should there be actual apple in it? Are you afraid the tuna at your local sandwich shop isn't actually tuna? Or do you even eat sandwiches at all? Let me know in the comments below, because I think more people should be talking about this. If you like this video or learned something new from it, give it a like or share it with a friend. If you like this kind of content and want to continue the conversation, consider hitting the subscribe button. You could join me on Instagram. And I want to give a shout out to all of you that have reached out via the comments or email. It means a whole lot to me when these conversations are continued down in the comments, and it really drives me to make more content like this. So yeah, thank you so much, and take care.